day 33 of my very much extended 20-day water fast. Yeah, it definitely was a lot of interesting things happened for me today. Well, in the last video, I shared how I noticed how I gained a pound after drinking several cans of sparkling mineral water. And so yesterday I just cut out all the sparkling mineral water altogether, had one tea, and then just straight the normal filtered water. So fast forward to this morning, and by this morning I woke up I got out of bed around 8:20. Yeah, I kind of woke up a little bit before that, kind of opened my eyes a little bit before that, but I had a lot of stuff, just kind of dreamy state that I was just kind of drifting for a while, so I didn't actually roll out of bed till about 8:20. And then when I went to weigh myself, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll be back down to, the day before yesterday's weight or whatever. It'll probably level out or something. And then I stood on the scale and it was just like, boom, went from 173.9 and then suddenly it was 168.2, which I was like, I did a double take. I was like, whoa, what the hell just happened? Like, how the hell did I lose that much weight? I mean, obviously there was, water weight. There's definitely water weight for sure. But yeah, it's something to do with all that CO2 or something. Really makes me think about all the people that drink a lot of soda. How much extra water weight, like gassiness and water weight that it's causing their body to hold on to. So it's kind of shocking actually. So to suddenly, have literally over 5.5 pound change in one day, like that was like, my jaw kind of dropped. I was like, what? I just broke all the way through 170 down to 168.2, dropped 5.7 pounds. Again, I don't know how much of that was fat. I'm assuming majority of that was water weight that had some retention due to the the carbonated beverages. But that's the number. So I don't know, just chalk it up. I mean, I'm definitely feeling like today when I'm like kind of standing up straight and kind of feeling along my chest. I mean, it's like, wow, I'm actually started now. Today is like, it's really feeling much flatter, like the fat pudginess around my chest area here, it definitely has, it's like, yeah, it's pretty dramatically reduced. My stomach is still, it's got a good amount still there, but, it's like kind of coming down. It's like my upper abs are starting to get flatter. So it's like working its way down to the lower abs. So I'm just like, so that was, yeah, shocking and inspiring at the same time to see that huge of a drop. Yeah, I drank, I think just shy of 3 liters today. So I didn't like go all out drinking. I had a couple of teas and I had one seltzer. I was just, yeah, it was after a long day of working and I was just like, all right, I want to treat myself to something. My stomach was feeling extra empty. Like it was this, I don't recall having it quite this super deflated emptiness feeling in my gut, in my, in my stomach area. Like inside, it felt like, it was like, the balloon had just completely deflated and there was like nothing left kind of sensation, where it was just like, oh man, my stomach feels like it's just totally collapsed and there's nothing there now. So it was like a slightly weird sensation. And so doing a little bit of the drinking one can of sparkling mineral water, kind of helped settle that a little bit. Made my stomach feel a little bit better. Didn't quite have that. It kind of helped to kind of take the edge off of that super empty, deflated sensation in my stomach. Let's see, the other things. Yeah, I've been pretty consistent, around 6 times going to the bathroom. Water pH 9.4, TDS 102, EC 205. A couple of highlights today was I met up with a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in many months, and he's obesely overweight by like at least a good 200 pounds plus. I mean, if he were to like totally leaned out like I am right now, that I'm getting down to, and that I still have some fat to go, he's capable of getting down to like the mid 150s, 160s if he was like, pretty fit. And he's like 370 right now. So he's like massively overweight, so it's massively bad for, his health is massively in jeopardy. And his doctor already told him that he's pre-diabetic, and that he's got to do something soon. Within a year, he's probably going to have full-blown diabetes, type 2. So, there's definitely a sense of urgency for him. And, and he had lost a lot of weight in the past at times, but, he just gets caught back up into the old eating patterns. And so he hasn't seen me since before I went on this water fast journey. And so when he saw me, I mean, he was just like, I told him about it, but, seeing with your own eyes is like, it just kind of, it's like just everything I told him is just like, I just confirmed it for him when he saw me. He was just like, oh my God. He's just like, you're so thin compared to before, And so it was so cool, and so we reconnected after, I don't know, it's at least 6 months or something like that, over 6 months. And it was like, it was this such great time that we had this conversation. And through the conversation, like, I shared with him more about my fasting experience, and sharing with him what I believe are some of the greatest benefits of it, and and also the cost savings and the time savings. And I'm just like, man, all the money you'll save on not going out to eat and stuff for a while, and I was like, man, I'm like, I kind of looked at him, and I was just like, how heavy are you, and then he told me his weight, and I'm like, yeah, he's like, yeah, like at least 200 pounds overweight. And I was like, okay. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I think, you could definitely do a 60-day water fast. Like, you have ample supply to handle 60 days for sure. I no doubt that you can handle 60 days. And so at the end of this conversation, he made a commitment to begin a 60-day water fast starting this weekend. Starting in the next 3 days. And so, because I urged him to, like, okay, don't just immediately start the fast, spend a minimum of 3 days to just cut back on everything and taper things way down. Cut back on what you're eating, cut out all the bread, cut out all the sugar, cut out all the processed stuff, and do that for at least 3 days before you go into the full fast. So that way it's not quite so rough of a transition. And then at the end of it, we were just like, we figured in 2 months he would save about $2,000. When we sat down, I sat with a calculator, and we're like, how much do you spend on your, going to Starbucks that he goes every day? And how much do you spend on your lunch, and how much are you typically will spend on, typical dinner? eats at dinner at home a lot, but we calculated in so many dollars that it probably costs for his meal each time. And then periodically, usually once or twice a week, going out to a nicer dinner and stuff like that, And so we're just like, adding it all up, and it came out to $2,000 for 60 days. And I was like, what could you do with that $2,000? And he thought about it, and he realized, he's like, you know what? If I've been wanting to go back to Turkey, go to Turkey and invite my parents and my uncles and like something. And I was like, when was the last time you saw all of them together? And he's like, at least 15 years, And I was like, how freaking amazing would it be to do this fast, save up $2,000, and put the money away every week. The money you would have spent on food, put it into a savings account, and just keep stashing it away. And at the end of the 60 days, you've got all the money to cover all the costs for this trip. And he talked about that actually the perfect time to do this trip would basically be in April. And I'm like, well, we're about to go into February, and you're about to start this fast. February, all of March, April. And it was just like, and he laughed. He's like, oh my God, I think you completely set me up to do this 60-day fast, because it's like, it's perfectly timed for when I would be the perfect time for me to go to Turkey, because he's like, April is like the perfect month to do this trip. And it was so inspiring, yeah, it's like confirms this, my after a lot of searching, I finally settled. I'm not sure settled down is the right word, but finally locked on to ways of being, about purpose. It's like, what is your purpose? And it's like, my purpose is this and this, and I feel like, my purpose is to be a source of inspiration and illumination. And I was like, I left that conversation, in that moment when we figured out all the details, and then he committed to doing this. And then as a result, then, he will show up to this family reunion in April, I'm guessing 80 pounds lighter. It's probably realistic, if not more, maybe 100 pounds, I think 60 days, there's a pretty damn good chance he could probably lose 100 pounds, 100 pounds lighter when he sees his family, and that's so inspiring. And and in the process of me sharing about the details of doing this water fast and all the benefits and how powerful this can be for him, I could see in his eyes about how I was sharing this information, this knowledge, and sharing my own experience. It was literally providing illumination for him. It was illuminating all of these powerful possibilities and concepts that no one shares about. He's never heard anybody share this stuff. And so and it left him feeling this illumination, left him feeling so inspired to want to do it himself. And and then in addition to that, me helping to then turned it into so much more. It turned into more than just lose some weight. It turned into this transform himself, and through this process of transforming his body and himself, he was going to free up these resources to allow him to suddenly go on this trip that he'd been dreaming about doing but never did, because didn't have the extra funds to pay for it. But by doing this fast, he's going to free up the extra funds to suddenly pay for this amazing once in a lifetime family family gathering outing, in Turkey. And, and that just like, left such an impact on me that I was like, wow, like, I helped cause that to happen, and then the part that makes it so cool was that in the process of me, helping him through this and help to, illuminate and inspire him to create these possibilities and to make these commitments and going to take action now, that then he also, through one of his sharings of his grandmother passing away today, or last night, I believe. Yeah, I think, or no, this morning. I think it was this morning that she passed away. And so he said he's been a lot of crying, because he loved his grandmother so much, and she like partially raised him, between him and his mom, Mom had to work a lot too, so then grandma took care of him half the time. And she was like, he said she was the most amazing storyteller of all these fanciful stories, and she was so amazing at how she described all the little nuances and details and added so much color and life to the characters and the surroundings and everything. And then when she'd tell the story about when she was a little girl and where she lived and grew up, and this fountain in front of her house, and so he was so inspired that he wanted to go out there and actually go and find his grandmother's home that she grew up in. And he said, it took a while, but he finally found it, and it was all, broken down and dilapidated and stuff. This is over in Tehran, or somewhere around there, I believe. And he said it was so amazing to like, he'd heard the stories, he saw, heard how she was describing it, but she was describing it when she was a little 7-year-old girl, and then but now it's an adult. And so, she has the memory from when she was 7, and then he had his memories of her telling the story. And now he finally, and then when he got there, he was just like, wait, this is it? Like things were smaller than he expected and things like that. But then then he shared how, he got down on his knees and got like really low, like a little, how, her perspective when he was a little girl. And suddenly he's like, yeah, it actually looks a lot bigger now, And it was kind of funny him sharing all this. He's like, so it was almost like he had these, at least 3 different perspectives that he, and they're like, full-grown adult standing, 5'8", and then looking at it from that perspective, and then like looking down as like the little girl's perspective, and then he got down, and then like mapping onto all that, the stories that his grandma told. Suddenly, like it was like this, it suddenly added 3 dimensions, whereas before it was kind of, you only got 1 layer, you got one dimension here, 1 dimension there. So, but then it created this 3-dimensional, and suddenly it just came alive, the whole thing, the stories and what's really there, what he saw there and the different perspective. And as he shared that, it just so inspired me. And then, because I shared that my mom is from Harbin, China, and she's not Chinese. She's born and raised there. And, she shared all, there's so many stories she shared about. And I was like, after he shared his story about his grandma, I was like, man, I've been talking about wanting to go to Harbin, China for years, but I've never taken any action to make it happen, And so I was like, and I was like, you know what? I was like, man, you inspired me now. It's like, you really inspired me. And I'm like, I want to go to the Harbin, but I want to go to the ice festival. They went to International Ice Festival in Harbin, which I've seen photos of it and little images, and it looks like a wonderland. I mean, it's amazing. All these, like, they build a full city out of ice, and it's all LED lit and everything. And so my mom, she shared about, when she was a little girl, they were doing the ice festival even back then. And, but it wasn't all technology sophisticated with all the LED lights, I'm assuming. LEDs weren't invented yet, back when she was a little girl. So, yeah, so I committed to, like, I'm going to go to China. I'm going to go to China for New Year's. I want to spend, New Year's, either New Year's or just after New Year's, somewhere around that time. But basically, end of December, beginning of January, around that time, that I'm going to take a trip over there. And then looked up all the information for visa information, and he said, oh, I already have a 10-year tourist visa for China, and this is how I got everything set up. And he gave me the information about the organization that helps automate the whole process, and so he gave me the website and gave me all my information. I called them up today, asked them the different questions, and then got all my questions answered. And I'm gonna work on getting all the documents set up on Monday, and get everything submitted by Wednesday. And I'm like, you know what? Why try to wait till the last month before or something like that, and there could be complications. I mean, I'm not going to go for like basically almost a year, like 11 months, so about 11 months from now. And so I'm just going to get it done. And then I'm like, wow, that's part of me, like throw my hat in there and be like, okay, I'm applying for the visa. I'm definitely going, this is it. And so we were both, walked away from that meeting, and, both feeling so inspired about these new possibilities. They're having these really amazing transformative experiences, and it all and it all arose from this fasting experience, this water fast experience, like how inspiring it is, how powerful it is, how effective it is in so many ways. It's like, it is hands down the most effective way to lose weight. I don't care what anybody else says about, like, you gotta lose weight slowly. No. You know what, after this experience, I've had it, did it before, and now I'm doing this again. I 100% disagree. You know why? Because that's the harder way to do it too. It's the less effective way. It's the slower way. It's the more expensive way. It's the least effective way. You get the slowest results, so it's the most easiest to get discouraged. It's just like con. Like, this one is like pro. This one, it's so much healthier. You have this intense detoxification. You get way more intense, like, autophagy effects and extreme, high levels of human growth hormone naturally produced. It's just like, anyone that says you got to lose weight super slowly, you got to lose a pound a week and to get to your goal, and it's bullshit. I'm convinced now it's complete bullshit. I will never, as soon as I hear somebody talking like that, I'll be like, next. You clearly don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're clearly stuck in some other paradigm, and that paradigm is wrong. Not even wrong, it's just stupid, I think. Because when I think about it, I'm like, oh, you gotta really like count your calories, and then you gotta have this like certain workout regimen, and you gotta do this and do that to the hope of losing a pound a week. And it's like all this effort and energy going into this. I'm putting like no effort and energy into this, and I'm getting 10 times better results. Go figure, And I'm saving so much money. I'm getting, over 6 months of results in 1 month, maybe 12 months of results in 1 month, pretty easily. There's some discomfort, sure, periods of discomfort, but other than, if you can't handle some damn discomfort, then like, are you actually committed to getting the body you want, to getting the health that you want? Or are you more committed to putting junk in your mouth? Are you more committed to feeding your addictions? It's like, you got to ask yourself that, because the truth is most people are more committed to feeding their addictions, and they're committed to holding on to these beliefs that like, I could never do that. It's like, well, have you ever actually tried? How do you actually know unless you've tried? You haven't tried, so why are you making the assumption you can't do it? So I guess I'm just kind of like getting so much more after just like, I'm just like, geez, this is like, so many more people need to do this, I mean, it just like saved so many freaking lives. It transformed, turned around so many people's health. It's just so much better, it's better in so many damn ways, but anyways, so I think I think we both contributed, illumination and inspiration. We both walked away from that meeting just like, just glowing with so much looking forward to these new amazing, beautiful possibilities, these futures. And so, that was just like, I was like, man, if nothing else happens today, this was perfect. Like, this was amazing. Like, and I'm so inspired, and I'm so excited to see his progress. And, and now I'm like, wow, I'm going to China. I'm going to Harbin. I'm going to see the ice festival for the first time. I'm going to go find where my mom, I'm going to try to find where my mom grew up, the house that she grew up in, Who knows? Maybe I'll work on using the fasting and the plant paradox diet to like totally heal my mom enough to where she could travel too, and maybe I could take her there with me, She insists that she has no interest of going at this point, but, that opinion might change if her health completely turns around. So, so that was really amazing, awesome. What else? I think well, back to terms of like, my body kind of sensations throughout the day. I had to do some organization in a storage unit today for good 6-7 hours. I was working to like try to overhaul this really disaster of a storage unit for a company I'm working for, doing the advertising murals, and it's like it's disaster. And I'm like, I can't find anything, so I was just like, dude, I gotta just stop everything and just work on reorganizing this thing. And I got a lot done, but I still have a lot way to go. And I would say through that period, I had periodic times where I took a break, because I was working, and then I started feeling a little overexerted because I'm constantly like picking up and moving all these tubes. They're not super heavy, but just constant doing that. I started feeling honest, in all honesty, it started making me feel a little exhausted. So, after like an hour and a half or so, I'd stop, take a break, watch some YouTube videos, some training stuff, and, business training, pep talks and things like that. And then, go back to work on it, and, kind of went back and forth like that. And the final stretch, I pretty much worked straight through for like good 3.5 hours straight through without pausing. So, I just pushed through, and overall it was fine. And then I went to my martial arts class tonight. It was a short one. I'm actually wearing the shirt right now. Universal Martial Arts Academy, San Francisco. And I just, I just sat on the mat in the corner and just sat and watched, and just closely observed and listened to the teacher, describing his philosophies of principles of fighting and demonstrating the principles. And, it's like really awesome too. I was just like, man, I learned so much tonight. And then saw my mom. Her toilet was all clogged. Took me about 10 seconds to fix it. She worked on it for 2 hours, couldn't do it. Like 10 seconds I had it fixed, so it's funny. I was just like, well, I'm a little more of an expert at this, and you need a little bit more power behind you to do it, because she's kind of weak, so she couldn't push it and pump it fast and hard enough to make it actually create the suction or the pressure it needed to unclog it. And then that was, and actually one other thing that happened today that was really powerful that I think, again, it goes back to how doing this fast really helping to facilitate movement and change, in your body and in your mind and, in your emotions. I was listening to a share of my friend I'm doing coaching with, and, some of the wording that he used in the share, it just it suddenly just triggered this just avalanche of tears, because it just I suddenly felt this connection back to this missing from childhood, and then what he shared, it suddenly just went boom, and suddenly the water gates opened, and suddenly I just felt all this sadness from childhood, this sadness of this missing suddenly just came up, and it just it was like this purge. And I sat there for a good solid 5 minutes, just feeling this intense sadness, it's like childhood of mine, it's like the child part of myself just had all this tears and sadness that he didn't express, and suddenly it just came up and wanted to come out. So I just sat there and just let it flow, and just let it flow, kept feeling it, kept feeling the sadness, kept feeling the tears in my face, and just kept letting it flow, and just didn't resist it at all, just allowed it to keep coming until it dried up, until it ran its course. And then at the end of that, it was I felt so free. It had this, I felt so much light. I mean, I'm already lighter, but it was just emotionally, I felt it was taking an emotional shit, it was I did these pockets of emotional constipation from the past that I was totally suppressed and never allowed to express, and just it's pushed down and locked down, and just allowing that to just release. It was this amazing, the afterglow feeling after finally that wave of sadness, that 5 minutes straight of just intense sadness and tears. It just suddenly it was clear again. It was like a storm, and then suddenly the clouds parted and the sun started shining again, and it was this amazing feeling of just almost the sense of euphoria and relief of wow, I got that out of my system. I finally I allowed that part of myself to be seen, that we refer to it as the coaching relationship I have with my friend. We talk about inner child, and then inner parent, and that inner psychological dynamic, and that that inner child part of you is had all these childhood wounds and needs and wants, and he's he's this very innocent spirit about him, about him or her, man or woman, and it was so powerful to just it's that inner child part of myself felt seen and heard. It was given a platform. For once, he's I didn't resist. You allowed me to express myself, my sadness, and acknowledge this sadness that I have, that this missing that I didn't get growing up, and that it's still there, that little 5-6-year-old self part of that, psychological, emotional makeup that you were at when you were 5 or 6 is like still a part of you, It's still a major influence in how you behave and decisions you make and things you're interested in and your drives and things like that. And so I could feel myself grow a lot closer to myself, the different internal archetypes, the internal, different mental parts of myself. I could feel after that, suddenly there was this closeness and, this vulnerability and closeness that came, where I was just I was crying for my younger self. I was allowing my younger self to get out those tears that he never got a chance to let out. And it was really powerful and I just felt so much better about it. And then 10 minutes later, I started checking out, I started sharing about my response to his. And then at one point, I said one or two things that I'd never said before. I phrased something a certain way. And then again, it's just triggered Niagara Falls, while I was making this recording about sharing. And I just let it, continue to record. And I was like, I don't fucking care. I'm just going to let it be. And it was like this more purging of sadness, purging of tears, purging of childhood needs and wants that were never fulfilled, and it was so therapeutic, and again, like I said, it's being in this fasted state, I never had this much progress processing old emotional wounds, old, emotional traumas from childhood that I know have been at the heart of my self-sabotage in the past. And that's one of my major commitments for this year, is to just really work on healing those traumas. And I feel like I got a lot of super powerful healing done today, and again, it's just being on this fast has been so essential to allowing that healing today to occur. I just know it. It's just that I'm so much more connected to my body now. There's so much more, so much more in tune with the sensations in my body than before, than before the fast. Yeah, man, I can't say enough good things about doing a long-term water fast, and I'm so gung-ho about pushing it to 40 days now. I'm just damn, I just have one more week to go. Part of me is almost sad about that it's going to end. I don't know if I'll ever experience a fast this long before, especially, get down to a very lean weight and then not be able, just not be able to physically support a really long 40-day long fast. But, I'll definitely be able to handle 20-day fast, I think, even once I'm super lean. But, also just, starting to really appreciate every day that's remaining on this fast. Savor every day, because there's a good chance I'll never have an opportunity to fast this long again. And so this is a really special one. So, yeah, that's, again, I thought this was going to be a short one, but yeah, there was a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of emotions, and I feel different now. I feel like something really key inside has shifted. Something the scales. Even the way I'm talking now to certain people and the way I'm talking to myself, and the way I'm like noticing I'm a lot more assertive and a lot more like, let's just fucking do it. Let's go, I have a lot less sense of procrastination now. Like, I just want to get shit done now. Like, I just want to push through, make it happen. Like, no time to waste, and before I'd be a lot more like, okay, well, let me finish, like, do this other thing first, and I'll get to it in a few more days. And, like, I was still kind of wishy-washy a lot of stuff, but I'm like now just like the feeling of wishy-washiness feels so like, why, why be wishy-washy? Just be direct and, action-oriented, and just like, if it makes sense, then just do it. Don't wait, and it really, it feels like just after the purging that happened today, that emotional purging, something shifted, some scale inside of me shifted, and I'm like, wow, something's really changing. And one of the things that I also committed to today was, my commitment for 2020 is that by the end of 2020, I don't want to recognize myself. Like, I want to be at the end of this year, literally be a brand new person, like change everything that needed to be changed. Like, keep the essence of me, but everything that's like just not working at all, and everything that's just working okay, and then go into the areas of not just it's going good, but like, what could be the best version of me, become that, whatever that looks like. And especially if it looks totally different. And part of what that looks like is like becoming my shadow. All the parts of me that is my shadow, instead of leaving it in the shadow, all the things that are like inappropriate, dark, harsh, whatever's there, bring it all out of the shadow and like really go into my shadow and like merge with it, like become the anti-hero, become my own anti-hero. And I think that by far is the most powerful type of person you can be in this world, is to be the anti-hero, where you're both fully integrated with the good and evil. You haven't suppressed the evil side. You haven't, like, try to become some goody two shoes, but it's like, when and where to use what, and be able to stay, within, ethically and morally and legally and stuff like that. But as long as you maintain those boundaries, then like you have so much more flexibility and range of possibility of what you can do and how you can navigate in this world, compared to someone who's like, they're only trying to be the good guy, because the good guy doesn't get ahead. And I've been the good guy for 40 years, close to 40 years of my life. I've been the good guy. And it hasn't benefited me. It's been mostly a negative experience being a good guy. There's nothing good about being a good guy, is what I've finally realized. Being capable of good is good, but trying to be a good guy it's a losing proposition pretty much every time. I can't think of a single time it wouldn't be a losing proposition. So that's my big commitment. So, all right. Anyways, I'm signing off on a day 34.